And I do, once again, I want to thank all the audience members for your questions. A lot of them fell in similar categories, and I tried to put those together for audience questions, but your participation here is really, first of all, it's kind of unheard of, and but it's been fantastic. We do appreciate it. Okay. There's a lot of folks running for the 13th district. I will tell you, and I think it's worthy to explain to you, Mr. Weingartner and Ms. Hayes both declined to be here. They did not cancel due to weather. They actually declined.
Mr. Weingart's a forum in Wise County.
So he did not decline.
No, Wise County is more important.
Okay. There's no forum anywhere else?
That's what he said.
No? Okay. Take it for what it's worth. The other forum was at noon today. Okay. We're going to get going right away. We've got a lot of questions, obviously, and you guys have heard them. They're going to be very similar to what we asked the Democrat folks and the Libertarian candidate. So, first and foremost, for each one of you, please raise your hand. Did you vote in the 13th District of Texas in 2018? Okay. So there's several of you who did not.
Well, I'd like to qualify that real quickly.
Yeah, and that'd be fine. Go ahead and explain to us why you did not vote in the 2018 election.
Well, I'd just like to qualify that. I'd just like to qualify that real quickly. I did not, and that's because I voted absentee as a member of the United States military for the last 25 years.
No, that's fine. If you voted absentee, we understand that. We understand that. Who else did not raise their hand? Mr. Ekstrom?
I did not raise my hand.
Okay, Ms. Carr, if you'd like to explain, please use the mic.
Right now, I have lived in this district and everything, and I have family that has been buried in Amarillo. My parents were married in Wichita Falls. I've had family everywhere over here. But right now, I'm working on a special project in Austin, Texas. I have also worked for like the surcharge thing to get rid of the surcharges because they were afflicting not all of Texas, not just the 13th congressional district, but all of Texas, and costing them thousands of dollars and taking their license away. And I'm constantly fighting for bad laws and for good laws, and that's why I was not voting in your district. And I don't really think it matters, because what has old boy done down the road for you? You have potholes. Just because he lives here and everything, that doesn't matter. You weren't not represented when he took $1 trillion of your money and spent it on the Afghan war, when he took $1 trillion of your money and voted for abortion in another country that we had to pay for. That's $2 trillion. And you're worried about the deficit. That's why.
All right, Mr. Ekstrom, would you explain? Would you like to explain why you did not vote in our district in 2018?
I was not able to vote in our district because I still live in Petersburg technically, so we were redistricted out the last time. So for whatever reason, Hell County just stayed in its own little pocket, but in any event, I voted each and every time, and now I'm back in the 13th, so thank you. And I did vote while I was there in the 19th. Anyone else? No.
Yeah, Mr. Ekstrom? He declined? Okay. We asked the Democrats about joining the caucus. There's one in the predominantly with the Republicans, Freedom Caucus, and I'd like to go down the road. We'll start here with Ms. Knowlton to my right or my left, and would you please tell us what you think about joining a caucus like that?
Well, I admire a lot of the members of the Freedom Caucus, but I probably would not join that caucus. To me, the most important thing is deciding issues based on what's important to the constituents here and what your opinions are. So the most important thing to me would be to meet with the constituents here on each issue and decide for you.
I want to stand up because I have respect for y'all for showing up this evening. My name is Vance Snyder. I don't believe in the Freedom Caucus because it's nothing but a high school clique of about 3,000, that's terrible. 3 dozen people who think they know what's best for this country, but this is U.S. House of Representatives, and that key word is represent. and you're supposed to be representing the people of the district. This district has 41 counties, and that's huge. That's about the size of a huge state. So why should we join something that has about 3 dozen people who are going to be making laws for the rest of the United States? But our district's actually very unique. So no, I would not join that Freedom Caucus because once again, it's just a high school clique of a bunch of about 3 dozen people who think it's good for us. We have our own issues here in this district.
All right, thank you. Mr. Jackson.
Yeah, I would say I would probably hold off on that. I actually say I can agree with probably like 90% of what the Freedom Caucus represents, but I wouldn't want to lock myself into anything right off the bat when I got in there. I probably would vote almost all the time in line with the Freedom Caucus. I have a lot of respect for some of the members of the Freedom Caucus, but kind of in the same way that Vance had said there, I just wouldn't want to box myself in up front like that. But I do agree with most of what the Freedom Caucus represents.
I actually probably would join the Freedom Caucus because, well, we agree with them about 90-95% of the time. And whichever one of us you elect is going to be a freshman congressman, very possibly in a blue house. This district needs all the help it can get, and joining up with some others might not hurt.
I'm going to say maybe, because I care more about what our district wants and what our constituents need than what I do with a bunch of people from other states have to say. So I'm going to worry about what District 13 needs before I care what some other people in Congress have to say.
I'm not sure. I'm pretty conservative, but before I decide an issue, whether it be for Republicans or Democrats, I research everything, and I want every policy researched, and I want to talk to constituents, and I want to do what is right and what is the right method or integrity to do what is right. And I'm for integrity, so I'm sure that I would agree with them on a whole bunch of stuff. I'm really extremely conservative, but I would have to see each issue, and I want all the bills to be read, and they're not being read so in Congress, and lobbyists are getting rich and you're getting poorer, and I'm tired of that. I'm for the poor people and for people struggling and for our communities, and I want to decide every issue on the merits of the issue. Thank you.
Chairs don't move that fast. Rich Herman, Amarillo, Texas. I know most of you in here. Thank you, American Legion, for hosting us tonight. Judge Taylor, thank you for being here, and anyone else that I don't mention, thank you too. Freedom Caucus, I've actually pulled some records on some of the people that are members of it, and I don't like the way they go against veterans in a few different votes they've made. There was one with the pro-life deal. Some of them didn't vote right. So if you ask me if I'm going to do the Freedom Caucus, I think they're like the Crazy Eight or whatever that goes over to the White House. I'm out, I'm not into cliques at all. I'm into representing the people here. And if you're voting anything and there's a member in there that goes against, protecting the unborn, I don't have nothing for you. And if you go against veterans in any form or fashion, I don't have nothing for you. Did you get your answer yet? All right.
Mr. Zendez.
That was the perfect answer, in all honesty. Protect the unborn, protect our vets, and let's just make sure that we have enough money appropriated to take care of every single one of our vets, because what is going to fire me up, and what has fired me up the most, is the fact that sitting on the Texas Department of Housing and Community Affairs Board, I've seen way too many times how veterans are treated once they come home, and they are being required to assimilate, and next thing you know, they're homeless. Homeless vets, no more. I don't want to see a bill like that come before me if I make it to Congress, when I make it to Congress, and maybe all my friends will make it to Congress with me. Thank you.
Mr. Extra, tell us, what are your thoughts on this?
I've already pledged to join the Freedom Caucus. It's not a clique. It is a group of conservatives who pull together to try to get things done, real conservative policy, not the make-believe, phony promises of campaign conservatives. That's what the Freedom Caucus is about. It's going to grow. Hopefully we're going to take over the majority of the Republican Party will, and the group of people in the Freedom Caucus who are some of the best people we have, Jim Jordan, Mark Meadows, Mo Brooks, who's endorsed me, Mr. Biggs, who's the chairman of the Freedom Caucus, who's endorsed me. So I'll be very proudly joining the Freedom Caucus day one. And I'm glad to hear there's at least one other person up here who understands that. I don't know about the other people that are not here, but I have a feeling they would maybe not join either. That's very unfortunate because the House Freedom Caucus has helped President Trump a very, very great deal.
All right, thank you, sir. We're going to start with Mr. Jackson. Where are you? Mr. Jackson asked an honest question, and we were going to start with introductions. We have so many questions, we're just going to go, and then we're still going to give plenty of time at the end for people to wrap things up. Unless you just want to. Do you guys want to? I mean, okay, that's fine. That's fine. We will do that. And we'll start with you, Mr. Jackson. You can start off.
Introduction?
Yeah, with the introduction.
All right, well, thank you guys for coming out and for staying so long. Real concerned voters here, and it's good to see. So my name's Ronnie Jackson, and I'm a Christian conservative. I'm a small-town Texas boy. I'm a retired Navy Rear Admiral. I'm an emergency medicine physician, and I'm a father and a husband, and that kind of defines who I am from top to bottom. But I'll tell you, I was born and raised in Levelland, Texas. I left there 25 years ago when I joined the United States Navy, and for the last 25 years or so, I've kind of moved around and lived wherever the Navy's told me to, and I've, like I said, lived where they've told me to. I've raised my kids where they've told me to raise my kids, and I just recently retired from the Navy about 7 or 8 weeks ago, and I moved to Amarillo, Texas, and I'm living here in Amarillo, Texas now, and Amarillo is my home. So I'll tell you a little bit more as we go along about my background and why I got in the race, but the main reason is because it sounds a little cliche, but I'm really concerned about the future of my kids and my grandkids right now, and I'll go into that in a little bit more detail later. Thank you.
All right, thank you, sir. Mr. McCarthy.
And to be clear, I'm absolutely okay with skipping these two. My name is Matt MacArthur. I'm from Spur, Texas, which, yes, it's in the district. It's down the southern portion, about 2 hours south of here. I decided to join this race because I wanted to make sure that the rural values and interests were represented. If you elect me, I'm a former police officer and I work in the oil fields, which means I'm outspoken, blunt, and pragmatic. I'm going to focus on things like reforming our Pell Grant system and helping infrastructure. And I understand that I would be a freshman congressman and probably a blue house, so I'm not going to promise you anything I honestly don't think I can give you. I appreciate y'all's consideration on the 3rd. Thank you.
I'm Jason Fogelsong. I'm a teacher here in Amarillo, and I've lived here for just over 10 years. There's lots of boring things I could tell you about me, but I only have a minute. So the reason I'm in this race is to bring representation to you, where you can have events held at times and dates in your district where you can actually attend rather than 10 a.m. on a Tuesday. I want to bring the voice of the common person to Washington, D.C. I have no lobbyists, no unions, no special interests behind me, nobody with a big bag of money telling me how to vote. All I care about is what y'all want me to take to Washington to represent you best.
My name is Catherine Eisner, and I have served since I was probably 12 years old on every organization you can think of, from disaster relief to Salvation Army. I made my kids ring bells when they were small as well. I'm a grandmother. I'm 61 years old. I've seen war. I've seen disaster. I know so much about what's going on in Washington. I know that we get $67,000 per every American, and no one's getting $67,000 per year because that money's being misused. And I want to do something about that and bring this money home to the 13th Congressional District. We need it and we deserve it. I have a master's in educational general counseling and pastoral work and a pastor's certificate and a criminal justice certificate as well. So I care about fair laws, and I know how to make laws, and I know how to break them, and I know how to get good laws going. I'm pro-life. I'm pro Second Amendment, and I don't want anything to be infringed upon as well. And I don't want the Virginia blue laws to catch on fire like wildfires and come to every state. And I'm really for the Republican. I'm a strong fighter. Thank you.
Okay, and again, we have so many questions to ask. We've got so many candidates. We've got a master of time up front here. Please observe. Mr. Herman.
Rich Herman, there's no real need to sit up here and tell you about myself. Most of you know me. I'm just going to tell you why I'm running. I do have a question. How many of y'all have kids or grandkids or something? How many of y'all, when you were growing up, you got told by your parents or your grandparents or something that you could do anything you want in life if you'll just work hard enough for it? You ever heard that before? Okay, most of us have. Do you feel like you can tell your kids that today, your grandkids? Maybe one or two of you feel like you can. I don't feel like I can no more. I feel like America's lost the dream. And the reason I'm running is so I can give that dream and feel confident when I look my kids in the face that if they work hard enough, they can accomplish anything they want. First thing I'm going to do is stop taking care of every other country in the world and take care of our own backyard first, okay? We're sending all that money overseas to people that want to cut your heads off, okay? We need to get rid of that. That's the first thing we need to do. I don't agree with this, oh, we're trying to keep peace. No, if you want to make war with us, we'll just come blow you up. How's that sound? I believe in a strong military that can go anywhere, anytime and when. I got the 5 fingers here, so I'm done. Thank you, Rich Herman.
Hi everyone, my name is Azucena Resendiz, and here we go. Azucena, oh, won't you vote for me? Yes, so I hope that that's the way we can remember my name. And I just want to say thank you so much for the opportunity to come out and speak with y'all. All of us would love to participate in this process, and clearly that's why you have so many of us here. We're all going to be great candidates, and I'm not here necessarily to give them kudos. I need to be here to give my platform, but my platform has now become kudos to them because I think all of them are really special. I really do. And, I'm first generation born here in the States. My mom raised us and told us that we are owed absolutely nothing, that we are going to work for everything that we have. Through that, we managed to get everyone through school, trade school, and in college. The university paid for myself, for my little brother, and for my sister. I went on to grad school, and shortly after that, my siblings were in the Afghan War in the 82nd Airborne Division.
Thank you, Ms. Resendez. Thank you.
And 2 more,
Mr.
my heroes.
My name is Chris Ekstrom, and I live in Wichita Falls. I'm in this race because there was not another conservative in it, and I believe the most conservative district in the country ought to be represented by a true conservative. I've earned those spurs and the endorsement of a lot of people. Texas Right to Life, I'm very proud of that because I'm a very pro-life candidate who intends to defund Planned Parenthood as soon as we possibly can. It should have already been done. I am endorsed also by Texas Values, and that means a lot to me too. I have the House Freedom Caucus Chairman's endorsement along with 3 different members of it. Very proud of that. House Freedom Caucus is a great group, getting a lot of things done, and it's going to get a lot more good things done for America too. I'm going up there to fight for President Trump and his agenda. We have 4 precious years of President Trump to go. We may never see a fighter like this again. I know that I've waited since Ronald Reagan to find a president like this that I can support. So that's why I want to go do that. Thank you,
sir.
Hi, I'm Diane Knowlton. I live in Henrietta down by Wichita Falls. That's in Clay County, and my family goes back 5 generations in that county. I have about 25 years experience in business and business law, so I want to bring a more of a business approach to how we manage our country. One thing I want to do is I want to reduce spending across the government by requiring all of the agencies to do process improvement to make their procedures more efficient and save taxpayer money. I'm also very interested in and concerned with fighting for our constitutional rights, First Amendment, Second Amendment, many others, and opposing the socialist agenda that seems to get more and more extreme. I'm sure many of you have heard some of the proposals in the Democratic presidential debates lately. So I'm Diane Moulton. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Vance Snyder. I grew up in Dumas, Texas, just an hour north of here. I currently live in Amarillo. Served 5.5 years in the military, do 2 tours overseas. First tour was Afghanistan, where my unit to date is the highest decorated unit in the entire Afghan war for my deployment in my unit. Second tour was to Kuwait, and then after the military went off to the, came home, moved back to Moore County, and that was even served as my home of record whenever I was in the military. After came back home, started working for a small short line railroad up there in Sunray called Texas Northwestern Railway. Quickly moved up to management. After almost 2 years working there, I made a transfer in the same career, as career change to BNSF Railway, and I'm currently a railroad conductor for BNSF here in Amarillo. I've been doing the transportation industry and blue-collar worker for the last 7 years, and I grew up working in a parts house over in Dumas myself. If you have more questions for me afterwards, feel free to find me out in the lobby.
All right, thanks, sir. Well, as everybody catches their breath from the introduction, I'd just like to thank someone who put this incredibly hot right on me. It's been very beneficial. I hope it looked great on TV and camera. All right, we're going to start. We'll start with Mr. Fogelson. Tell us about term limits.
I'm not going to say that I'm for them or against them. I'll sign it or sponsor it if that's what the people of District 13 want. But the problem is going to be getting everybody else in Congress to vote themselves out of the job. So, while in theory I think it's a good idea, it's going to be really hard to get it done.
Let's go on right down the road. Oh, I'm sorry. That's fine. I'm sorry, I didn't make that clear.
I think there should be term limits because then we don't get people like Pelosi and Maxine Waters and people like that. And we really need to give a lot of people a chance because the founders really wanted us to go and do a job and do it well, and then come back and engage in what we were working towards. So I'd say I think 10 years is enough to do a good job. And so I haven't completely decided, but I'm thinking that there should be term limits and that they should be 10 years, possibly. I think that's enough time to get the job done. Thank you.
Hoorah! I'm absolutely for term limits. I've signed the pledge like a few other people up here, so I'm not going to sit up here and toot my horn. The biggest thing that I think we're having a hard time agreeing with is the actual terms. I personally think Congress people should have 2 4-year terms. Senators should have 2 6, and presidential should have what they have right now with the 2 times 4. With the exception, I believe there should be a war clause put into it, because I think if you go to war, you need to keep the same people in place till you're done. But then remember what I said, I like to go anywhere, anytime, and win fast. Get our boys home. I'm not into long, extended wars. That ain't the way we're supposed to do it.
Thank you all.
I too am for term limits, and these term limits, whenever a congressional leader reaches the top level that they can reach, I think that would be something that I would like to see revised, but it wouldn't be an automatic. What has this particular congressional leader done as the chair that has brought prosperity, that has brought economic development, primarily for me, safety for our troops and safety for the people of the 13th.
Yes, I strongly support term limits. I think the idea of somebody being in the Congress in the lower house 25 years is almost incredible. And most Republicans have been saying since the 90s, indeed the one that was here, said that they would term limit themselves. And you know, they haven't done it. There's been a very rare breed, like Senator Tom Coburn from Oklahoma, who did term limit himself and walked away. And I take my hat off and I salute him, because he could have been there right now. And I'm sure he would have been in leadership. But he kept his promise. We need to keep our promises as Republicans, because that's one of the things that make us different than the Democrats. who literally make it up as they go along. So it's time to term limits pledge, and I promise you that I will do everything I can to see them enacted. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Nolan.
I'm in favor of term limits as long as they're implemented in a reasonable manner. When a member of the House is up for re-election, that's a good way to hold them accountable and make sure they vote like the constituents want them to. So I think 4 or 5 terms at least would be a proper limit. That way we wouldn't have more than 25% of the House up against their term limit at any one time.
I'm 100% for term limits. I'm not going to go sign a piece of paper to, just as a piece of propaganda just to gain votes. I believe in 4 2-year terms for the House, 2 6-year terms for the Senate. Do away with all retirements and benefits. It's a public service and a civic duty.
I support legislation establishing term limits. I don't think that anyone, whether it's the president or the Senate or the House, anyone serving in those areas should serve more than 10 years. I've seen it firsthand. What happens, when you don't have term limits is politicians waste a lot of our time and money. They spend 50% of their time and money campaigning, and every 2 years it's just, literally half of their term, they're campaigning for the next term. So I think it's a colossal waste of time and money. I think it also impedes their ability to go and do what they said they're going to do. They're always worried about the re-election, and I think if we had term limits, it would free up our members of Congress to go to D.C. and do what they said they were going to do, and do a good job, and then turn it over to somebody else when their time's up. So yes, I support them.
All right, the short answer is, not unlike Jason here said, if y'all want term limits, I will sponsor the bill, I'll submit it, I will vote for it, I will advocate for it strenuously. Good luck with that, because you got to convince 434 other guys to vote themselves out of a job, and I don't think that dog's going to hunt. However, if we were to able to get some term limits in, I'd like to see something to the tune of about 8 years in the House. You want people to actually learn where the bathrooms are and things like that. It's a big building. Probably 12 years for the Senate, but it has to be national. It's not something Texas could do, or our guys would never build enough seniority. And just as a little food for thought, if y'all think back to the Republican Revolution in 1994, where our own beloved Mac Thornberry was elected, he ran on term limits. Just throwing that out there.
All right, thank you. Now, before on the Democrat and Libertarian candidates, we had a couple of traditional Republican topics we asked them about, so now we're going to change it up a little bit on y'all. We're going to start with Mr. Herman. Mr. Herman, tell us how far you would go and what you would do to protect pre-existing conditions in the health care that you see needing to be done in Washington.
Well, we've already been working on that, so it's pretty simple. There's so many different rules in the Affordable Care Act or the Obamacare, whatever you want to call it. You're going to have to totally repeal that. That's the first thing you have to do. If you don't do that, they're going to be amending, and you're never going to get anything accomplished. We actually need to go to a performance-driven medical care system, and we need to take the insurance companies out of the equation. You got to remember the insurance companies are going to do whatever makes the money, okay? They like to make the highest profit, and the more profits they make, they don't care if you're getting good quality health care. Now, how far will I go with it? As far as I can get away with it, okay? Once somebody shuts you down, that's about it. You can stand there and yell all you want, but like we said, there's 400 and something other people got to vote with you, and if you can't bridge that gap, you ain't going to get nothing done.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Sendez.
Will you repeat the question, please?
Yes. Tell the audience here about your thoughts on healthcare reform, specifically having to do with pre-existing conditions. What would you propose we do?
I propose let's start with our veterans. Let's start with the VA. I have a very personal story with my family that, my brother has one of the strongest cases of PTSD that he is dealing with right now coming out of the Afghan war. And several of his pre-existing conditions weren't able to be covered by the VA. because they weren't treated while he was jumping out of airplanes and doing his job there in the 82nd. So when he came back and years later, the rheumatoid arthritis, and I'm just giving y'all one example, started deteriorating his thumb. The VA said, all right, well, now what we're going to do is have you fill this application and let's see if we can get you a little bit of money. Well, now they have to send him to Amarillo. And Amarillo says, all right, well, if we can get this paperwork processed fast enough, then we'll go ahead and see if we can get you 10%. 10% for a war hero that will no longer be able to use them.
Thank you, Mr. Ekstrom. What are your thoughts on reform in healthcare, and specifically with respect to pre-existing conditions?
Well, the other thing that we should have gotten done already is a repeal of Obama's terrible so-called affordable health care. We all know that it is not affordable. I lost my doctor as well, and all of our premiums have gone way up, those of us who insure ourselves, and our service has gone down. In some cases, you are denied access to doctors that your own doctor then suggests. It's a completely disastrous situation. We've destroyed one of the great healthcare systems in the world in a false quest. And you can thank the worst president ever for that. You can give a little aside to Mitt Romney. He started it too. But the worst president ever, Obama, did that to all of you in the quest to socialize medicine. Now that's just totally unacceptable. That's 1/4 of our economy, folks. That's not a joke. Margaret Thatcher said they would never get back what they lost when they did the National Health Care Service, and it's pretty clear that they have not in Great Britain. Don't let us devolve into that.
Thank you, sir.
Well, I think we need to keep the law that says that the insurance companies cannot deny coverage due to a pre-existing condition. I think that's probably the only good thing that came out of Obamacare. So other than that, in general, I think we really need more of a free market healthcare system. For example, allowing health insurance policies to be sold across state lines, to allow people to buy the kind of policy they want. If they only want a catastrophic policy and they want to pay out of pocket, they should be allowed to buy that. If they want a policy that does not cover maternity, they should be allowed to buy that. But we do need to keep that law about the pre-existing conditions so that people can get their health insurance.
Thank you, Mr. Snyder.
First thing would be to repeal the Affordable Care Act. We do need to have, because whenever the Affordable Care Act was actually enacted, it did raise the premiums, So it's made it really expensive, but with the pre-existing conditions, if you have somebody that, had something like Austin her brother, he had a pre-existing condition, he's not being covered now. It does need to be covered because if it's, we can go on this all day long. Cover the pre-existing, short answer, cover the pre-existing conditions and repeal the Affordable Care Act and make it an open market to where we can purchase whatever insurance it is that we need and bring those premiums down.
All right, thanks, sir. Mr. Jackson.
Thank you. Ronnie Jackson, yeah, so I will agree that, I don't know if I mentioned this or not before, but I spent my last 3 years of active duty as assistant to the president and senior advisor to President Trump, and I worked on a variety of healthcare issues, including some of this stuff. I've discussed this with the president on numerous occasions. He's adamant about protecting pre-existing conditions, and I agree with him 100%. We have to do that. I will say that Mr. Ekstrom is also right that Obamacare was a colossal disaster and it's done great damage to our medical care in this country. And I will tell you that it needs to be fixed and needs to be fixed quickly. But I think we actually have some solutions online right now. I've met with multiple members of the Doctors Caucus, most of which are Republicans. These are congressmen that serve in Congress that are also physicians, and they have a lot of interest in coming up with an alternative to Obamacare as it continues to erode away. and the president's motivated for that too. And I think the pendulum has swung so far to the left that we have three industries: healthcare industry, the pharmaceutical industry, and the large healthcare organizations, health insurance. And I think they're motivated right now to fix this before the Democrats fix it for them. Thank you.
Mr. McCarthy, tell us what you thought.
My thoughts, once again, Matt MacArthur, my thoughts are, first, we at this point have to be realistic. We are going to have to put forth, any legislation we put forth has to protect pre-existing conditions. Probably if they had scrapped all of Obamacare and just done that one thing, they'd have statues to the guy. But unfortunately, they tried to roll everything else into a big bill that, well, it screwed a bunch of stuff up. Republicans have been running on repeal and replace. We're going to have to actually do that, but we're going to have a replacement that involves true free market solutions. Selling across state lines, one of these guys said it, I don't remember which, or I'd credit them. Selling across state lines, allowing us to take insurers out of the process, because let's be honest, you got hospitals charging $100. When I was riding on an ambulance, they were charging like $75 for a thermometer, or for a tongue depressor, $100 for an aspirin. We also need to look at the system at the usage level, because some of the things they're billing for, it's not medical care, it's fraud. And we need to attack that as well.
Okay, so whether or not we get to repeal, replace, or fix Obamacare is really going to depend on who holds the House here in November. So one way or the other, pre-existing conditions have to be protected, but I think that's a bipartisan issue, and it sounds like it's non-negotiable for all of us. So that should be a really easy thing to work together on. Pardon me. That's non-negotiable for me. Any legislation I work on, pre-existing conditions will be protected.
I think that if we can fund Planned Parenthood, which I don't agree with, we can certainly fund people that would pre-existing conditions, and we should. I'm against Obamacare, and I do know that the hospitals cost a lot. A long time ago, it was $63 for a bottle of aspirins. He says it's $100. I assume that's what it is now. And I really think that we should repeal Obamacare and stop the lobbying people from trying to lobby us to death and raise the prices of prescription drugs. And I want to fight to lower those costs, because people with conditions like diabetes can't afford $1,200 a month. And so I really do want to work on this, and everybody is entitled to health care in this country.
All right, thank you. We've got a couple more questions and then closing remarks. Is everybody good? Y'all need a break, or are we doing good?
Yeah, good.
You guys good? All right, great. Another question that we've also covered with our Democrat candidates and the Libertarian is immigration. Immigration is always a hot topic here in Texas. And we need to find out, I know the audience members are going to want to know what your thoughts are. Let's start with Mr. Ekstrom. Mr. Ekstrom, tell us what are you going to do to correct and fix the problems of immigration?
I think that President Trump took a giant leap forward in solving the completely ignored, really, problem of immigration. Many, many Republicans are essentially, or have been, open borders Republicans. Now, fortunately, some of them are no longer with us, like Senator Flake and some others who I'm not going to name, who passed away. But Senator Flake from Arizona was a very good example of a guy who would never admit or talk about the fact that he basically favored open borders. He should have been a libertarian, and then he could have sincerely and honestly had his policy. I don't support that. I support building the wall as soon as possible. It has multiple purposes. One is to give border agents, and I've been called by the fathers and mothers of these agents, time to react. The other is symbolic. It says, we have a border. You cannot have a nation without a border. It's just as simple as that, and it's obvious, common sense. I think that most in this room are going to agree with.
So I'm Diane Knowlton, and the topic of Immigration involves many, many subtopics, but three that I believe are most important are we do have a problem with illegal immigration, so I support continuing to build the wall. The border is the nation's first line of defense, so we need to be very strong there. I'm against sanctuary cities. If someone commits a crime, they should not have the privilege of staying in this country, especially if it was a crime that hurt another human being. And then there's really a lot of technology issues at Customs and Border Protection. I spent 5 years working as a consultant at CBP. I was working with more administrative tasks, but I learned a lot about what they do. So for example, if they're trying to prevent people from overstaying their visas, that requires a lot of technology, investing in, say, facial recognition to see when people are entering and leaving the country, and we should continue investing in that.
I'm Vance Snyder. I believe in building the wall because it is a great deterrent to keep human trafficking from continuing to occur and continue to protect us from having other people come into our nation. But other things that we do need to focus on, we also do need to reform the immigration process. Currently, we need to have an education system put south of the border so we can educate the people south of the border how to legally come to our country and start contributing to society legally as citizens. Because just like you and I, our forefathers came here in the pursuit of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And I believe in that for everybody. The average cost for them to actually pay a coyote to come over to the United States is $10,000 to $15,000. The average cost for somebody to come over to the United States legally is $1,000 to $3,000 with application fees and attorney fees per person and member of their family. So why not educate them to pay the right money to come over here legally and start contributing instead of paying the wrong people who they're intimidated by their entire lives to come over here illegally.
Thank you. I'm Ronnie Jackson, and I'll tell you that President Trump has sent me to the border 4 times over the last 18 months, and I've seen firsthand what the disaster on the border was. He's done a lot to change it now, and he's done a lot of great things that have really already started to reform our border security. But you know, the open door policy that we had during the Obama administration was a disaster, and I saw firsthand. And you know, I'm a supporter of the wall, and like I said, I've toured the border from top to bottom on multiple occasions during President Trump's administration, and I've talked to Customs and Border Protection, Border Patrol, ICE, HHS, everyone that's involved out there, and to a person they will tell you that they need that wall in place to funnel people to the ports of entry so that they can focus their resources where they need them to be so they can stop human traffickers, gang members, and drug cartels from poisoning our country the way they are right now. I mean, they are eating our country up from the inside out right now with the methamphetamine, the heroin, and the other things that are coming across our border. So I'm a strong proponent of border reform and border security.
Matt MacArthur once again. Guys, this isn't 60 seconds and you're going to do it. I have a YouTube channel very creatively named Matt MacArthur for Congress. Go there. I have a video on immigration. Real quick though, as a police officer, my first police job was in a suburb of Houston. Yes, I moved out of the district to go enjoy a bit of adventure. I was stupid. I needed the money. Day one, we had a batch of illegals run on us, and my field training officer was saying, "Please be Mexican," and I thought it was an off-color remark. They were all from India and Pakistan. Did you know there's 22 dialects of the Indian language? We learned that the hard way. We have to build a wall, but we also have to remember we need technology, we need immigration courts, we need officers, because the Admiral was right. Under Obama, we were chasing illegal aliens 400 miles from the nearest port of entry. They were coming under in tunnels, the coyotes were running them across, which show you how porous it's got, and the street value of the coyote now is about $4,500. It's going down, that's bad. Anyway, long story short is we have to have a full picture. I've got a video on it. Check it out, see what you think.
All right, thanks, sir.
There's lots of things that you can find crossing the border besides just people illegally crossing looking for a better life. You can find terrorists, drugs, guns, diseases, gangs, all kinds of horrible things. So we need to build the wall. And then we need to patrol the wall. And that creates jobs for Americans. And after we patrol the wall, we need to make sure that we empower law enforcement at all levels to detain, question, and deal with those people that they catch, and then make E-Verify mandatory so that it makes it extremely unattractive to come here illegally. And create heavy penalties for those business owners that continually defy those rules. And then maybe the problem will solve itself.
Yes, sir.
My name is Kathy Lanspear, and I do not support sanctuary cities at all. I think that they should be fined and prosecuted. And I also believe that people should come legally and do what it takes to prove that they deserve American citizenship and that they'll love America. I'm against the Sahari law 100%, and I know that that's an issue. They're wanting to teach this in school and everything, and that's another fight that we have to fight against. I also think that a lot of the people that are coming here are not coming for asylum. In order to get asylum, there are conditions that you have to meet. You have to be being persecuted because of your religion, or being persecuted because of your political opinion and other reasons. And none of the people coming are being have any conditions of asylum. It's just to come and find jobs. That is not one of the criteria to come here, even though I wish everybody could have a better job. We have to take care of our law.
Lower. Can you repeat the question?
Yeah, the question is about immigration and what do you plan to take to Washington in terms of your ideas and what needs to be done?
All right. Everybody said everything, so basically build a wall, but something I would change too. When did immigration become a taxpayer's problem? Why are we paying for people to come to our country? They need to pay their own way. Our forefathers, when they came to this country and everything, you didn't have somebody give you free food, free education, free college, free housing, free everything. You're going to come to America, take your butt to work. Do like the rest of us, get up, work every day, no freebies. My kids don't get it, you don't get it. Charity starts at home. That's the big difference that I would implement immediately. Cut off all them agencies that are giving away our money. And it's a charity thing. It shouldn't come out of taxpayers' pockets, okay? It should not be coming out of your pockets.
So I agree with Rich that this should not be coming out of anyone's pockets, and I also agree that if things like this don't come to my children, then they shouldn't go to yours either. But the reality of this is that it doesn't work that way. And the reason it doesn't work that way is because I have my family as the perfect example. My family is the one that was stopped at the border. Thank God they had crackers that they could give us because we were there for almost 2 days. But it's an extreme. You turn a blind eye because we get here to the States, and fortunately, we found a family, the Hoppers, that were open. They opened their arms to a young, hardworking family. They took us in. I knew what clothes I was going to wear because I was going to wear Courtney's clothes the next year to school. And Ronnie gave my dad that job. And Melinda gave my mom her first job. Therefore, they knew that we were here to be American. But there is no way that anyone is going to close or shut that system down, because if it were that easy, it would have already happened.
Thank you. Okay. You know, it just occurred to me that if somebody who was on the stage could just put the same bright light on this side, then I would have had a nice even 10 tomorrow. And this could have been a little bit So I just want to again thank you, tell everybody who did this. Thank you very much. Oh, Tamara did. Thank you very much. Tamara and Joy. Thank you so much. Okay, we're coming down to, got one more question though, and this is a lot of audience members put this question up in one form or another. And as you guys know, on the left side of things, the media keeps reminding us that we need to address reasonable common sense gun control. I want to know from each of you, what does that mean? We're going to start with Mr. Snyder.
Hang on, brother. I'm trying to sabotage that.
Hey, at least he didn't push you over like he did in Lane.
If y'all haven't seen my campaign ad, it's pretty epic. We have the most firearms used in political ad. We had 9. We filmed 15, but we couldn't fit all 15 in 30 seconds. But anyways, I don't believe in gun control. I believe that we should repeal the NFA Act of 1934, repeal the Hughes Amendment of 1986, reform the Gun Control Act of 1968, and go through. And the whole bump stock deal, that was completely unconstitutional in my opinion, because you have a bunch of people who went out and spent $100, $200 on a novelty item. that works maybe a third of the time. And afterwards, you sign an executive order, and the next thing you know, all these people are felons if they didn't destroy them. So, I'm 100% for the Second Amendment. I would actually be carrying my firearm right now, but my license expired last Wednesday, and I've been waiting on the renewal for over a month and a half now. So I'm having to buy my rights, my constitutional rights back from the state, and I believe in constitutional carry.
Thank you, Ronnie Jackson, and I'm a strong supporter of the Second Amendment, and I'm not for any types of restrictions on that Second Amendment right. I think that we open the door to that, and we start allowing, certain limitations here, limitations there. It's a very slippery slope, and eventually that constitutional right that we enjoy right now will be no more. So I say no. I'm not for any type of constitutional limits on our right to own a weapon.
Every time one of y'all goes to buy a firearm, you fill out the background check report, right? Some of y'all have done that. If you're illegally prohibited from owning a firearm, you have committed a felony by trying to buy one. Our Department of Justice prosecutes that less than 1% of the time. I have said multiple times that every one of these things, I'm not going to tell you where I stand on the Second Amendment. I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do, or in this case, not do. I am not going to vote for a single, not one gun control law if you elect me. We cannot trust the government to enforce them. I'm not going to vote for them. And that will be how I work as a congressman.
It's short and sweet. Gun control is using both hands and hitting your target. Yeah. Red flag laws are unconstitutional. Gun control laws punish law-abiding citizens, and criminals don't obey laws anyway, so why waste everyone's time? Why waste our tax dollars? It's a waste. It's pointless. And it's unconstitutional.
I'm Catherine Icewear, and I protect and I respect the Second Amendment because it protects you, and I'm for the Second Amendment. I don't want red laws at all. I am fighting for the Virginia laws that want to prosecute police officers and judges and parents and people that own gun shops and factories that make them. And what we should do is we should make a law that says you can sue the city and the towns if they go against your Second Amendment rights, because we are not allowed to infringe upon that. That means no talking about it. It's not debatable. The only ones that I could even think about denying guns for is people on probation, and they already have a law for that.
I can't believe I'm about to say this because I'm running for Congress, but if you really know why we have weapons, it's to overthrow a government that's out of control. All right, that's what the weapons are. They're not for hunting and all that good stuff. The reason they gave us that power is so if they get too big in the shorts, we can go up there and take them out. Now, why in the world would we want them to have better weapons than us? That's my next question. Why can't I have an automatic weapon if you do, Mr. Government? Why can't I have a big cannon if you do, Mr. Big Government? So it's all a farce. It's very, if you look at all the countries in the world, England, everything, they're trying to take your weapons, so when they make you mad, you can't come take them out, okay? So keep our guns, leave it alone. I'm big time Second Amendment. I almost said I'm overthrowing the government, but that ain't what I meant, all right?
Thank you.
And Azucena Resendiz, there's no such thing as a reasonable Second Amendment clause. So it's a right, and unless you do something ridiculously incompetent, you lose it.
Thank you. Mr. Extra?
I will never vote for any additional gun laws, and I think we should repeal some. All of them should be looked at very closely. It's the Second Amendment. It's our rights. We should not peel our rights away like a piece of bologna that's being sliced. That was Senator Helms from North Carolina who said that, but it's happening. So what you need to understand is what's happening in Virginia is not going to be abnormal very long from now. Blue states and governors like the one in Virginia are going to attempt to take the guns from their citizens. It's coming right now. Why don't we have constitutional carry in Texas? And they have it in Maine. Let me say that again. Constitutional carry is in Maine. We don't have it in Texas. What are they doing down there, right? These are the Republicans who control it in Austin. I've spent the '86 session down there fighting for the monuments law. And I saw that these guys don't have the will to do what they need to do. We have also congressmen in Texas who've talked about having little seances, bipartisan seances about our Second Amendment rights. It's ridiculous. I am not going to do that. So we need to elect people who are resolute about that. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Milton, what do you think about efforts at reasonable gun control?
Well, like everybody else up here, I oppose any restrictions on our Second Amendment rights. The right has been eroded too far already. It's been one restriction after another after another. And now you've had some Democrats who actually use the terms mandatory buyback or confiscation in some interviews they've given. So it's too important a right, so I oppose restrictions.
Thank you. We're actually, believe it or not, and it's pretty much right on time. We're down to it. You guys, there's 9 of you up here. You've got a minute or so left. Tell us in your close why these folks here ought to consider voting for you to be the next 13th district representative. And we're going to start with Mr. McCarthy.
Your clock already started.
I needed my big boy voice, apparently.
There you go.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm from this district. I've lived in other parts of the state. I live in it now. I've got a little bit of varied experience. I've worked in law enforcement. I've worked in the oil industry. I bring a few things to the table that other people don't. Of course, then again, a lot of them bring things to the table that I don't. I think what it really boils down to, and I encourage y'all to go to the YouTube page or my website, Matt MacArthur for Congress, and really check it out. I also encourage you to do that with my opponents. Most of them are good people, and you could do worse with your votes. I guess the reason I think y'all should vote for me is because I will actually represent this district honestly, and I will represent the rural portions of the district as well. I'm not going to pick and choose. I'm a straightforward guy. You don't have to like me, but I will always be your guy. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
I'm Jason Fogelsong. I've lived here for the last 11 years, worked here. Amarillo is home for me, and I'm not leaving unless you send me to Washington. My integrity is not for sale. My family will not move to Washington with me, and I will never call Washington or the state of Virginia home. I'll come back here as much as I possibly can to be here with you to make sure you have representation that reflects you and your values and your wishes in Washington, D.C. You can't buy me, you can't do anything with me. All I want to do is take your voice to Washington.
I'm Catherine Eisler Carr, and I think that I bring a lot of things to the district because I'm an inventor, and when you're an inventor, you take a product from the beginning and you finish it. And that's kind of like what you have to do with laws. You have to take it from the beginning and finish it, and you research your thing, and you talk to people, and then you make a decision on what to do. And I think that's really important. I see the roads that are needing help in this district, and I know about inventions that will protect the roads and make them last for a long, long time. So I bring that, knowing these inventions. I have a lot of qualifications and a lot of experience and different organizations that I've helped. And I believe that I'm really fit for Congress. I try to stay informed on the policies and everything. I know a lot about the bills, and I know how to get the bills passed and get the bad bills taken out. And I'm really for the congressional district. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Herman.
Rich Herman, born and raised in the district, served military, combat veteran, justice of the peace. I've done a lot. Most of y'all know me. You've seen me out at the airport, maybe receiving our boys home from war, maybe even right here cooking for a pancake breakfast, or maybe at your church. Y'all seen me around town. Like I told you, the only reason I want to go to Washington, D.C. is so I can give our kids back the dream of having opportunity in this country. And if that ain't important, then don't vote for me. You know, I tell everybody, money can't buy you love, right? But it might buy you some votes, okay? So you could also donate me some money if you want to. Never mind, I'm just playing. All right, here you go. Susanna.
Hi, y'all. That's Susanna. I am the daughter, first generation born daughter of 2 immigrant parents, 3 older siblings. We all received our citizenship, and I love having the conversations with folks get in back of the line because there is no line. My mom waited for 18 years in that line. My grandfather now is going to be waiting 22 plus. And what I really believe that I can bring to the conversation is the understanding that I can share with us as Americans and with the culture in which my family was raised. I'm proud of it. I'm extremely proud of it. But I'm even more proud that I'm able to speak to both cultures and in many different generations, and just still feel that I'm not only true to myself, but if this rising tide is going to lift all boats, then I can say it to my own culture that I want to help that rising tide through education, because that's really the only way we're going to be able to get it done. Right, Rhonda?
I just want to thank all of you all for coming tonight. It's so essential that people get involved at this point. We have 4 more years of President Trump to try to achieve some major goals. And this guy is a fighter. He doesn't let the media back him down. I've never seen anything like it my entire life. I've watched the media bully us, and unfortunately our elected officials who are Republicans and even some conservatives kowtow to them. And it was, you know, in retrospect, when you see somebody standing up like this, you realize just how bad it really was. President Trump doesn't take that. I promise you I will never take that either. Some people have asked me, what do I get out of this? Well, what I get out of this is an opportunity to serve. We have some people up here who have served the country very honorably and as, I think, heroes. And that I did not do. So when I take that oath, I look at this as my service for the United States, and I'll be deeply proud and honored to be able to do that if y'all were to choose me. I think we have a great future in America, but we're going to have to fight for it. Thank you.
Well, I'm Diane Knowlton from Henrietta, and a lot of the topics that we had questions about tonight are things that are very important to me. Protecting our constitutional rights, First Amendment, Second Amendment, many others. Fighting against the socialist agenda, and continuing with a lot of the accomplishments of the Trump administration. Border security, some things we did not discuss where the economy has improved. We've done a good job fighting terrorism, but there's a lot more to be done there. And then also I do want to reduce spending across the government and make our government function more like a well-functioning business. So I'm Diane Knowlton. I think I'm at the top of the ballot in Potter County and the last person on the ballot in Randall County. So if you're in a hurry that day, you can just check my name off and it'll save you some time. Thank you.
I'm Van Snyder. People continue to ask me why I chose to run, and that's easy. I'm tired of seeing the same type of people elected over and over and over again. People who are politically connected, people who bought their endorsements, people who have been working as a lobbyist for the last 14 years at the Texas Cattle Feeder Association and worked 6 years before that in Washington, D.C. Y'all continue to say drain the swamp. Well, it's easy. Drain the swamp by not choosing people who have been politically connected and actually local people who have never run for office before. I've never run for office before in my life. You got people claiming to be courageous conservative, but yet more of the cowardly lion because they came to the most conservative district in the United States instead of trying to turn their own district from blue to red.
Ronnie Jackson, and I want to thank you guys for all coming out. We got to stand up here and tell you what we all bring to the fight, and I'll just tell you that, you know, Mac Thornberry's been your congressman. He's been the congressman for the 13th Congressional District here for the last 26 years. You know, as such, he's got a big voice. You know, he's got a lot of influence. When he speaks, people listen. When he's got a problem with the district, people want to figure out how to help him fix it, right? I'll tell you that the day he leaves, that goes to right here, to zero. You're going to have a freshman congressman or a freshman congresswoman in your district that's going to be our representative in the district here, and they're not going to have a voice, not for the next 6 to 8 years. That's just the way it works. They got to establish some time in office before they develop an independent voice that they can advocate for. I'm the exception to that, and it's not me. It's not because of Ronnie Jackson. It's circumstance. I've been with President Trump for the last 3 years. I've worked in the White House. I know every single cabinet secretary. I have their home phone number. I have their cell phone number. You know, whether it's energy or commerce or defense or any of the other cabinet secretaries, they'll answer the phone when I call, and they'll help me resolve issues. I may be the only freshman congressman that'll be able to walk into the Oval Office and tell the President of the United States, "Sir, I need you to stop what you're doing and listen to me." And he will stop what he's doing and listen to me. So if you want influence for the district and you want us to protect the things that are important to this district, I think I can do that. So thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to have been the moderator for this last two big sessions. Whether the Democrat, Libertarian, or the Republican folks up here on stage, it is an enormous undertaking to do what these people are doing. A lot of these people are traveling an incredible distance. They're working their tails off, so I wish all of you the very best in your races, to the Democrat and Libertarian folks as well. And I think young Mr. Warren has a few remarks. Thank you.
This is going to be really short and sweet, and I just want to thank everybody who came out tonight, all of the candidates, of course, and Josh Tillerson and the American Legion for being such great partners with us on this forum again. We really do appreciate it, and I know that, you know, if you want to support the American Legion, you can talk to Josh. I'm sure there's many ways you can get involved, but we just really do appreciate everyone coming out here tonight. We appreciate the Legion, and we hope that you go vote on March 3rd, or early voting. So make a plan to go vote, and go do it. We'll see you at the next forum. Thanks.